Hello, here's your Thursday edition of InfoHub. We start with the following stories. President Granger condemns recent piracy attack. Rule of law must be fortified in the fight against money laundering. Commonwealth Secretary General advises COOPERATIve delegates to be guardians of their country's financial institutions. And World Press Freedom Day observed. The details of these stories and more after this.
Here's an important message from the Ministry of Finance and the Ghana Revenue Authority.
If you've never filed or paid your taxes, or have deliberately not declared your true income, and now you're worried that you'll be audited by the Guyana Revenue Authority, I have good news for you.
The Ministry of Finance has announced a tax amnesty effective January 1 to September 30, 2018.
So you can now pay all your outstanding income, property, corporate, withholding, and capital gains taxes and get right with the GRA. Visit their office or call them at 227-6060, extension 1201 or 1204 today.
Invest in your country. Pay your taxes.
InfoHub begins with news from the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, COOPERATIVE's Judges and Prosecutors Conference, which got underway this morning at the Pegasus Hotel. At the opening of the conference, President David Granger said the fight against money laundering must be strengthened by the rule of law. Stacey Carmichael brings us the details.
President David Granger, delivering remarks at the opening of the COOPERATIVE Judges and Prosecutors Conference today, said the rule of law must be fortified in the fight against terrorist financing and money laundering if it is to be successful. The Caribbean, he pointed out, given its geographic location, has today become a haven for financial pirates, privateers, and money launderers.
Present-day transnational criminal cartels possess the means to corrupt public officials and the motivation to undermine the institutions which sustain the rule of law. Present-day information communication technologies can facilitate the transfer of financial assets across the borders at the speed of light. Illicit proceeds can contaminate the voluminous transactions which take place within our country's financial systems.
In this regard, the head of state stressed the importance of safeguarding the criminal justice system of states from the subversion of organized crime.
Robust legislation and sturdy institutions are the weapons in the war against financial crimes. Guyana embarked on a path of passing legislation to counter financial crimes 18 years ago. Such legislation has corrected deficiencies in the anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism regime and allowed for the improvement of compliance with the standards imposed by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force.
Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Basil Williams noted that the work of judges and prosecutors is critical to consolidating stable and effective institutions of integrity, transparency, and the rule of law. These features, the AG said, are the pillars of a robust anti-money laundering regime.
This workshop, the first of its kind to be held in our region, seeks to provide a platform for gathering and sharing experiences, challenges, and best practices in investigating and prosecuting money laundering and terrorist financing, as well as depriving criminals of their proceeds.
Prime Minister Moses Nagamutu, Minister of Public Security Kemraj Ramjatan, Chancellor of the Judiciary Justice Yonet Cummings Edwards, and other ministers of government were also in attendance. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
Still on news coming out of the conference, Alexis Rodney now tells us that judges and prosecutors of the Commonwealth member countries were today cautioned to be guardians of their country's financial institutions.
The charge was given by Commonwealth Secretary General, the Right Honourable Baroness Patricia Scotland, during her address at the opening of the COOPERATIVE workshop for judges and prosecutors being held at the Pegasus Hotel. According to Scotland, money is the lifeblood of violent extremism. Judges and prosecutors, she said, are in the position to safeguard their country's financial agencies.
So we have a duty to be vigilant guardians, protecting the safety and well-being of all our people, and ensuring that we have the capacity to safeguard our institutions in order to prevent them from being exploited by criminal and terrorist purposes.
She said the sources of these fundings are diverse and flow with what she said are constantly shifting channels of distributions. Scotland said when one revenue stream is closed, another is opened.
And to stem the supply that sustains terrorism and violent extremism, we have to ensure that we have the best and the most up-to-date legal and criminal justice tools available.
The confab, she said, will serve as an excellent opportunity for the legal luminaries to deepen their understanding through the exchange of ideas on the regional and global dimensions of money laundering, terrorism financing, countering violent extremism, and the recovery of the proceeds of corruption. Alexis Rodney for InfoHub.
The head of state, speaking on the sidelines of the conference, condemned the recent piracy attack, describing it as a grievous act. Stefan Gabriel tells us more.
President David Granger, speaking on the sidelines of the opening ceremony for COOPERATIVE workshop for judges and prosecutors, said,
We are deeply grieved by the tragedy. Clearly, some Guyanese have been victims, and we are in touch with the Sudanese government and also the Sudanese police authorities. Our police in the B Division, which is the East Berbice Quarantine Division, are in touch with their families. And we plan to observe, formal mourning. It's a great massacre, a great tragedy.
In addition, the head of state says that the recent attacks on what is believed to be mostly Guyanese fishermen is a setback to successes achieved over the past 3 years.
We have been very successful over the last 3 years in curbing piracy. So this has come as a great setback. And we extend sympathy to the families of the bereaved, but right now we don't have all information. We are in touch with the Sudanese government, and we'll be making a public statement hopefully by tomorrow when the Minister of State gives his press briefing.
An attack off the Atlantic coast of Suriname Friday last left 16 fishermen missing and feared dead. According to 4 survivors of the brutal attack, the assailants, suspected to be of Guyanese heritage, beat them with machetes and forced them into the sea. Some of the victims had batteries tied to their legs to weigh them down. 3 bodies have been so far salvaged by the members of the Coast Guard and Marine Police. For InfoHub, Stefan Gabriel.
Moving on to other news, a lecture was held at Murray House today to observe World Press Freedom Day. InfoHub's Zanil Williams was there and filed this report.
At a lecture held by the Guyana Press Association today in observance of World Press Freedom Day, transparency activist Afar Raymond says the media must be aware of its responsibility to keep power in its wheels in check.
It has to be more than merely keeping the power of the state or keeping the power of this political party or that in check. It's also that the media has to recognize it has a power and it has a responsibility. How do we keep that in check?
The activist shared with media operatives his views on the roles of the media and the fact that journalists need to be aware about current issues. Meanwhile, on the sidelines, journalists shared their views on freedom of the press in Guyana.
It focuses on what journalists can and cannot do in some societies, but I think particularly in terms of Guyana, particularly in recent time, journalists have been quite free to do what they can do and what they ought to be doing. We need also to look at how we can have the freedom of the press inserted in our constitution. I hear a lot of people talk about freedom of the press within Guyana, but we have never really had it within the constitution in the way the United States refers to the First Amendment. What we have is the freedom of expression, which applies to all citizens. All citizens have that.
It's trite, but with freedom, with any right, comes a responsibility. And each of us has to be sure that what we are putting there is in the interest of the people, the interest of the public.
The theme for this year's World Press Freedom Day is Keeping Power in Check, Media, Justice, and the Rule of Law. Zanil Williams for InfoHub.
The 34th meeting of the Council for Human and Social Development, COSAD, opened on Wednesday at the Theatre Guild under the theme, Positioning Human Resource Development as Central to Caribbean Resilience and Development. Details from Stacey Carmichael.
Speaking at the opening on Wednesday, Minister of Education Nicolette Henry underscored the importance of governments prioritizing health and education.
The government of Guyana has recognized that quality education is not only about access to education, but it also requires a reorientation of the education system and provides the knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes which respond to individual, national, and global needs and expectations. Quality education encourages the development of critical thinking, which fosters the desire and capacity for lifelong learning.
Minister Henry noted that this administration is working to develop policies and programs to improve efficiency, effectiveness, and quality in both the health and education sectors. Secretary General of the Caribbean Community, Ambassador Erwin LaRocque, said the development of the Regional Human Resource Development 2030 strategy is another step in the evolution and development of the region's human capital.
The enhancement of our human capital is fundamental to the success of the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, the CSME. Building knowledge societies and economies rely heavily on availability of relevant and cutting-edge skills. The social, economic, technological, and environmental resilience prescribed by the CARICOM strategic plan depends on the successful implementation of the HID strategy.
Chair of COSOD and Minister of Education, Youth and Culture Suriname, Lillian Ferrier, noted too that the strategy addresses several of the issues articulated not only by the region's youth, but by their parents, teachers, and the wider community. The Council is gathering this week in Georgetown to discuss the approval of a Regional Action Plan 2018 to 2020 for the Human Resource Development 2030 strategy and forging an agreement on arrangements for the monitoring and evaluation at both regional and national levels of implementation. The meeting, which began yesterday, will run until May 4. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
In this Isaiah Braffett report, we hear that the establishment of a $10 million crab and fish processing facility was well received by residents of Smith Creek, Marijuana, and Imbutero in Region 1.
Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Valerie Garrido-Lowe, said the undertaking is in keeping with an objective to develop small industries in the hinterland regions. She underscored that it will resolve the challenges residents face in finding market for the excess stock of fish and crabs not sold at the local market.
You don't need government or any organization who feel sorry for you and give you a spade and an axe and a motor and a machine for the rest of your life. You need to be able to get the opportunity to earn your own money like anybody else.
The minister explained that the residents will also receive technical support from the Fisheries Department to ensure that the operations of the facility are in keeping with international standards. Residents have been given 3 weeks to find a suitable location on which to construct the facility. Nevertheless, they welcome the initiative by the ministry.
It is good. I see it is something that when we as passed and gone, the youngster that living in Imbutero, they were able not to have to live in poverty no more, but they will rise from there, and I think they will able to earn good living, independently living, that living where they were able to live better than the old generation, and that is what we're looking forward.
A lot of people depend on the crab and the fishes down here for make a livelihood. I know it's a very good thing, right? And it will help a lot of people. And also the young people, the children, and everybody will earn a little money to send the children to school and other things.
The ministry is also carrying out a similar venture in Moruca to redevelop the coffee industry. Another successful small industry venture is the Pacaraimos Flavor Project. This value-added project focuses on the production of organic, sun-dried tomatoes and salad dressings. Isaiah Braffett for InfoHub.
And finally in the news tonight, several individuals, companies and organizations were today recognized for the significant role they have played in promoting occupational safety and health at their workplaces. Details from Senika Thorne.
In her address, Minister Amna Ali noted that for the nation to achieve the vast economic benefits derived from a safe working environment, a more comprehensive method must be implemented.
A more comprehensive knowledge-based approach about safety and health in the workplace at the enterprise, the industry, and national levels must be implemented in order to make the right policy decisions for the protection of all workers.
The National Advisory Council on Occupational Safety and Health Vice Chairperson Patricia Woolford said that the objective of the awards is to encourage all companies to lift their environmental standards and improve the conditions under which persons work.
It puts the spotlight on young workers because they are more vulnerable to OHS risks. It therefore follows that employers must consciously provide work environments where young workers are not subject to actual physical, mental, and psychological harm.
Among those who received awards were Aurora Gold Mine Inc., Gaisuku Blaymont Estate, Troy Resources, Banks DIH, DDL, Guyana Water Incorporated, Linden Hospital Complex, Power Producers and Distribution, and Massey Distribution Guyana Inc. Seneca Thorne for InfoHub.
Connect with us 24/7 on our website, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and WhatsApp for more details as we bring you updates on what is happening all across Guyana. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.